welcome to another episode of Unapologetically Anxious Me. I'm your host, Joe, and today we have a special guest with us. We have Krystina Callahan.
Yes.
If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are. I'm so excited.
Girl, I'm excited too. I'm Krystina. I live in Tampa. I do hair. I'm a hairstylist business owner. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a free spirit. I never wrote an introduction for myself. So,
Hey, pop your shit. Come on.
This is what we got.
This is the time to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, so I know Krystina from way back when I lived, obviously, anyone who's been listening to the podcast for a long time, then you know that before I moved to Minnesota, I lived in Florida, obviously, and I lived in Tampa, Florida. Krystina was one of my really good friends, and I moved just when we were like starting to cultivate a friendship and really get close. And it's always been one of the hardest things for me to deal with about my leaving there, because there was a lot of people that I connected with and was really starting to find my people right when I left. And then it just kind of got ripped right away from me. But I always stayed, in touch and felt really close to you and felt a connection to you. So I'm just using this as an excuse to dig into your personal life, to know you and get to know you in the way that I've always wanted to get to know you. But we just haven't had a whole lot of time to spend together because we're moms and, career women, and we got shit going on. And I just really admire you as a woman and just the journey you've been on, and just I love the way that you do life, and I think you're a dope ass chick, and I want to know more, and I think that you're going to inspire so many people with your story. So we're going to jump right into it. So you're a hairstylist. How did you become, where did that start? Were you always passionate about hair? Was that always your goal?
Yeah, from the beginning. As far as I can remember life, I've always wanted to do hair. I remember being I think my mom has a video. I was either 2 or 4, somewhere between 2 and 4, where I was I'm gonna do hair. I want to be a hairdresser. That's what we called them back then. I'm gonna be a hairdresser, and I just knew I wanted to do it every day.
Yeah,
I didn't know anything about jobs and how much what kind of salary I would. I didn't think about that. I was just I want to do people's hair every single day. So it was kind of cool. I feel I kind of got a little cheat code to life because I knew what I wanted to do from the beginning, and I never really strayed too far from that. That was always the goal.
How did it start to develop? The skill?
The skill developed. I started working on Barbie dolls and my sister's doll's hair, and then it developed to my friends, hey, let me try and cut your bangs. And I got in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble.
I can imagine. I ripped children's bangs.
Yes, that little girl, I cut her hair in my neighborhood. Her mom came to my door and was upset, your daughter cut my child's hair. Yeah. And they were horrible. The bangs they were horrible, but I was excited. She was excited. It was cool. Then, I got older.
Yeah.
Right. Right. As I got older, I started working with color. But when I realized I had a thing is when people kept asking me to do their hair, and I was young. I was probably around 12, and people were asking me, and I was getting paid. I was getting paid to do hair. And then my mom's oh, you're really good and you're not charging enough. You're doing whole makeovers on people.
Wow.
And you're getting $5.
Right.
And I was I don't care. I just love this. But when I got into around 12, when I got into middle school, it really became my saving grace because I was going through stuff. I was sad. I was depressed, and I was just stuck. I didn't know what I was going through. I didn't know why this was all happening. And I know hair did it for me. I would be sad and I'd go in the bathroom and try something new with my hair. And all of a sudden I just felt a little bit better. It wasn't the cure, but it was oh, I felt good about myself. And then like that whole day, I felt so good about myself. And I was like, I need to feel like this all the time. And then I thought, I want other people to feel like this too.
Hmm.
So when I started working on adults, well, some of my teenage friends as well, but adults was really, I could see the difference in them when I would do their hair. I would see how they looked coming in.
Hmm.
And a lot of them, I really, honestly, I really targeted people that I felt like I could help upgrade their look for them. You know,
Hmm.
people that like you could tell they wanted more, do more with their hair, but they didn't really know what to do with it. That's who I really like, hey, can I do your hair for you? Like, can
Hmm.
I just want to try something. I got this idea. And it worked. And they were just, after I did their hair, they were so happy. And I was just like, this is really what I want to do. Like, I want to make people feel good about themselves. I want to enhance others' beauty. And that was it.
If I can jump in for a minute,
Mm-hmm.
you said before that you there was like a turning point where you were about 12 and it really saved you. So,
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit more about that and what's your background if you're comfortable with opening up about that.
So I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. My family was a Jehovah's Witness, so it was a very strict household. Everything was a certain way. Um, and growing up in that space, I never really connected with it. I don't have anything bad to say about it. It just wasn't for me. But because I lived such a strict lifestyle, I was isolated from everything. I was like, I was in public school up until actually 12th grade. I was in public school, I mean, 12 years old. I was in public school until then. My mom took me out and decided to homeschool me. And that was it. Like, I'm a social person in a sense. Like, I'm quiet, but I like being around people. I just like being in people's space. And when she put me in the house, I was just like, oh, the depression kicked in and I was sad. I had no friends.
So
I
your
was just
mom was your teacher or
Yes and no. So the school that I did, it was like they mail you books, you read the books, you take the test and online, and then they give you another book. So there's not really a teacher. Honestly, I really wish I had a different, homeschooling education. Back then, there were not the ones that they have now. Like
yeah,
they're
now
way
it's an
better.
option.
Oh man,
Yeah.
they're amazing. You can go to school and do like a field trip or like pop in and do a class or do
Mhm.
prom.
Yeah.
Mine was a book and a computer.
Mhm.
And if I needed help, I'd ask my mom. But she was busy in the religion as well, so she was out preaching. They do
Mhm.
service
So
preaching
she
work.
was in it.
She was full time. I mean,
I've known a few people growing up who were also
yeah.
Jehovah's Witness, so I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, so she was very involved. So I was home by myself a lot. So it's just me and my books. But yeah, there was not any direction really. So being in that space, and then already, being a Jehovah's Witness, we didn't have friends outside of our religion. So
Mhm.
I had a couple of friends, but they were in school. I felt very isolated. Like that was the gist of it. It's like I was alone. So yeah, I got really depressed, and my family has a history of depression. It runs on my father's side,
Mhm.
so I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know why I was feeling like this. In our household, no one really talked about depression.
Yeah.
There was this huge secrecy like behind it, like, oh, it's just go read the Bible. You're not reading the Bible enough, and I'm
Oh,
like, well,
oh, I know.
you
Oh, baby.
know that like you're not close enough to God, and I'm like, I'm trying, like so. Being in that space where that was my only resource was the Bible. And mind you, as a child, I didn't understand it fully. As an adult, it might help me now in life. It does help me now in life, honestly. But as a child, I didn't understand what I was reading. I was just like, this is a lot. This is deep. And this isn't helping me right now. So right now I'm feeling like I don't want to be here.
Mhm.
And this isn't pulling me out that space. So that was pretty much it. And my relationship with my parents was not good. That's a whole nother factor of my self-esteem, verbal things that have stuck with me.
Mhm.
There was just so many different dynamics, and yeah, I was down. I was down.
I'm
I
sorry
was
to hear
down.
that.
So
And thank you
yeah.
for sharing that. But I can imagine how fixating on one thing that actually makes you feel good and feel good about yourself can
Mhm.
make you feel like something in a world where you feel so isolated and alone.
Mhm.
And that's something I did a lot too. And I think
Mhm.
writing and reading books and researching and being this like nerdy, weird little kid,
Yeah.
my own little bubble, like it made me feel secure and safe in a world where I didn't feel very safe,
Hmm.
oftentimes. So I understand that, and having really strict religious parents where the religion takes importance over the household and everything
Hmm.
else. And
Hmm.
that is always what comes first. And people don't realize how dictatorial that can be, and how much of um, how wearing that can be on the children and that actual household. So yeah,
Hmm.
I get that.
Yeah.
So, as you got older and into your 15th year and out of that year, like you started,
Hmm.
and your parents being Jehovah's Witness, they didn't like worry about you wearing like certain hairstyles or color or anything like that.
Oh yeah, they were strict about that. I had
That's
to
what I was
create
thinking.
within
I was like,
limits.
hold up. Like they were letting you use weaves and all that
No,
because I know I
girl,
wasn't
no.
even allowed to wear nail polish when we
No.
were Baptist. I couldn't even get my ears pierced till my graduation.
Right, right. No, there were strict. That's why you know what? It's crazy. I look back and I'm like, this might be why I'm so creative now because I can adapt to
Right?
anything.
Are you?
If
Do
a
you
client
feel
comes
like
in
you're
and,
like that? That like impacts the way you mother your kids now.
oh yeah,
Like,
oh yeah,
I feel like I'm just like a
oh yeah,
three. Like, let's do it all.
yeah. Let's
Like, baby,
experiment. Like, what do
yes,
you want? What do you want to do?
yes,
Let's try it
express yourself.
out. I rarely say no to creativity because of that. Because
Yes,
I'm just like, I want to see what you can come up with, what you got, you
right.
know.
I
But
encourage it so much. I get
yeah, no, my mom was strict. Even when I went to hair school, I was 18, and I wanted to color my hair, and she was like, no. And I was like, you can't put me in this situation where everyone's getting color and we're being creative, and I can't do anything to
but
my
I'm
hair. And
stylist.
she,
That's what you want to do. Like,
yeah, and I was an adult. I was like, I'm 18. I'm graduated. No, she wasn't
yeah.
having it. Yeah, my first weave, I actually bobby pinned into my hair because I wanted a sew in so bad. And she was like, no, you're not getting one. And I'm not paying for one. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, this is a money problem. It's not a
Mhm.
sewing problem. So I got this hair that I had left over from a ponytail. I got my bobby pins and I sectioned my hair and I pinned. Girl, I was walking like this everywhere I went because I thought I was going to fall out my hair. I was just like, my mom like, why are you walking so stiff? I was like, it's gonna fall out. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I had to adapt to everything because I would always find a way around the rules. Like, all right, well, I don't go
I
too
feel
far here.
you. I feel you. I used to do it too.
Yeah, I get it.
So tell me more about that, as you went from that transition into furthering into your creativity and becoming more of a stylist and gaining your independence away from your mom and dad and doing more with your hair.
Mm. It was, I would say they kind of loosened up a little bit over time. There were still the rules there, but I just started doing what I wanted to do. I think that was like my beginning point. I've spent a lot of my life worrying about how people are going to view me, especially my parents. Honestly, that their opinion matters. It still matters to me a lot, but it mattered. It defined me. In my mind, it was like how you feel about me is the truth, you know.
I
And I wanted them, I wanted them to feel, you know. But I also was like, I gotta I gotta live a little bit. Like this doesn't. I feel too closed in. And I've always been a free spirit, so I started kind of just doing what I wanted to do, adding little pieces of color, and then cutting my hair gradually and gradually. So I had a bob because I was trying to get that bob. Um, and just I don't know. I just eased myself into it.
So, what came first, formal education or love?
For me, education. Well, that's a good question. I was in love young, so I don't know. It was hand in
I mean,
hand.
I was too. They kind of came together. So,
Yeah, it was hand in hand. There, like I loved hair. I loved hair as much as I loved the idea of loving someone else. So, for me, that was never an option to like not have like my education. I've been in love a couple times when I was young, and um, yeah, it was kind of simultaneous. Yeah,
okay.
but,
And so,
mhm.
did you always? So, was it more like a path of like you went to college and then hair school, or what
Mhm.
was your journey
Oh, okay.
professionally?
So I graduated at 16 from homeschool because the homeschool program was so easy. Girl, I was like, let me just knock this out. I'm done. I'm tired of this. So
16. Wow.
girl,
You're
it was easy.
lucky.
Yeah, I was 16. I probably could have did it sooner, but my mom was like, no. So I was like, all right, 16 is cool. So I finished up school. I went to cosmetology school. I went to the Redken school. I think it's called the Summit Academy now. I went there at 17. Uh, that was fun. Like that was a good time. I learned everything. I was a sheltered child in a room full of rock stars, and it was so cool. That took me about a year and 2 months to complete.
Mhm.
And then I got a job, my first salon job. I went immediately behind the chair because I thought I knew it all. So I was like, I'm getting me a little station, and I'm about to do this hair. So I did that. So by 18, I had a career.
Oh,
I
wow.
was making money. I had my own car. Um, I had everything. I had my own phone. I had my own whatever. I was very self
Which is
sufficient.
which is a lot when it's a
Yeah.
big deal when you're your age and to be established. I mean, you came from like a 16-year-old high school graduate, like,
Hmm.
and you're established by 18. That's a big move.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It
what,
makes you grow up
yeah.
fast. Mhm.
Where'd you go from there?
My mama kicked me out, even though she'll tell you another
Ah,
story.
I was waiting.
So,
I was like, they kicked your ass new. I'm waiting for the,
hey,
huh.
that boom.
Yeah.
So, due to the rules and regulations that I did not like to follow, she was like, "Hey, it's my way or the highway," and I was like, "I'll take the highway." Yeah, she didn't like, even as an adult, even after having my whole career and everything, the rule was you don't hang out with people outside the religion still. And if she gets wind of it and you live
But
in her
she
home,
expected you to.
yeah, abide by that. So I might have skipped. I got baptized at 17. So
Oh,
we might need to go back to this because I think this is an important point. I was 16, 17 when my younger sister, I have two younger sisters. So my middle sister was about to get baptized, and in our religion, it's not a good look to have your younger sibling skip that, skip the baptism before you. Like
wow.
something's going on with you. Like what's going on? And I knew at that age that I didn't want to be in the religion, and there was a lot of reasons, but mainly it didn't sit in my heart. It didn't rub me right, and I didn't feel like the things that we were required to do were from God. I just put it that way. I'm like, I
You
don't
knew
think
this was not something you were going to choose for yourself for the rest
I
of.
knew that. Yeah, I knew
Oh,
that.
wow.
Like I knew from a young age. I
Mm.
didn't vocalize it till I was
I
older.
didn't know all that. Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, I was very aware as a child, very conscious, and I was like, nah, something's off about this. So when I got of age and I'm like, I'm out of school, like I technically don't have to go to these meetings anymore.
Mhm.
And I would try to like ease it onto my mom, and she was just like, excuse me? Like she was devastated. The first time I told her, she was devastated. So, anyways, my sister's about to get baptized. My mom's looking at me and she's like, you haven't made this dedication, and I don't feel right paying for your cosmetology school. For you, if you're not committed to God, you're not committed, Jehovah. If you're not committed to Jehovah, you're not going to school. And my dad had bought me a car, and she's looking like, you're not about to have all these privileges, and you're not doing what God's expecting you to do. And
Mhm.
I'm like, well, maybe I could think about this a little harder because I'm trying to go to school. Maybe I'm tripping. So, I prayed about it. I prayed heavily. Even though my heart wasn't there, I still had a connection with God. And I was like, God, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Like,
How
why
did
am I not
that
feeling
influence
this?
your mental health?
It was horrible. It was conflicting. It was conflicting. And I felt like something was wrong with me. Not only did I
Exactly.
already have the depression and didn't
Yeah.
like myself, mind you, but now I feel like, why, something's wrong with me. And then just certain things that I was told that I'm like, so God doesn't want me, as maybe God's not calling me. Like, well, why not? And I always felt like I had a curse on me in a sense, because I was like, well, why is it so easy for my middle sister to do this? Like, I mean, she
Right.
was in it and she
Mhm.
loves it. She's still in it and she still loves it. And I'm just like, wow, like this is great. My mother is like, her heart's in it, and like might be a little over the top sometimes, but she loves this religion. And my little sister at the time, she was too little really to form an opinion, but everybody seemed so good at this. And even some of my friends, that went to, they're like, everybody's in this. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? So I prayed and I did my research and I thought to myself, if I dedicate myself, maybe God will like move my heart when I come out the water. Like maybe there will be this epiphany.
Yeah.
And so 17, I got baptized with my sister. I was like, let's do this. Like, and I came out and I didn't feel any different. I was glad I did it. It was cool having my parents to be proud of me. I'm not gonna lie. Like that was probably one of the first times I really felt like they were proud of me. But I didn't feel any different. I felt like this still might not be for me.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I was 18. Um, I went to a friend's house and I told my mom I was at a different friend's house. I told her I was at one of the girls that had went to the Kingdom Hall, the
Yeah.
religion. So that's what it's called. I told her I was there. I lied. And I was with somebody else. And she called, instead of calling my cell phone that I had, she called their house phone to
Yeah.
check up on me, which
Mhm.
was already a trigger for me because I was like, I'm 18. Like, why are you
Yep.
doing this?
Yep.
Why are you spying on me? Like, I already feel like.
I have
So
lived the same life.
and girl, I'm sure there's a lot of people who live, because this is what we've gone through. Like,
Religious
especially,
trauma.
yeah, and even as just being the daughter of the home. I don't even know if this fully has to do with religion. Just being, the oldest daughter
Yeah.
has its own
Hmm.
things. So, she called and checked up on me. I was not there. And she texted my phone and said, come home right now. And I was like, all right. So, I went home and she asked me where I was. And I told her where I was. And she was pissed. And she was just like, you know what? Like, you think you got it all figured out, huh? Because you got your job and you got your car and you got your this and you think you can just do what you want. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I can. Like, I'm 18. I'm on top of the world in my mind.
Isn't
And
that
it's like,
literally what you raised me to do, to figure it
yes,
out? Like,
yes. And I'm a good child. I feel like I was a good child. Like I
yeah.
might have broken the rules, but I'm not out here doing drugs. I'm not out here, like,
Mhm.
I'm not out here doing nothing. Like, I'm really focused as best as I can be, on my career and, you know, growing up. So,
I
I remember my
memorize them
dad,
so hard.
mhm. I remember her and my dad were sitting there and she said, well, in order to stay living here, you have to quit your job and move closer to home. Because at that time, I was working about 30 minutes from my house
Mhm.
in Oldsmar. You need to quit your job, move closer to the home. You're going to give up your car. You're going to, I think she said something about my phone. I don't know if she was taking away the phone or she was going to be watching who I was talking to. I don't know. It was something with the phone. Um,
Policing you.
and she got policing me. And if you need to go anywhere, you need to take your sisters with you. And I was like, and I'm like, well, for how long? And I don't think she even gave me a date, like from here on out. And I'm like, I remember saying, no, I'm not about to
A
do this with you.
chaperone?
Huh?
Like a chaperone?
Like a chaperone. And I'm like, I'm not about to do this. There's no way I can do this
Oh,
because there's so many details prior to this. The rules were crazy that I was like, this is the defining point. Like this is,
now I
and
see.
mind you, prior to this, I had already moved out. I skipped that part, but I moved in with a friend because something that happened with me and my mom while I was driving, the physical altercation.
Mhm.
And I was like, I can't take this. I got to go. So I went to live with my friend. I wound up moving back home because my grandma called me and she was, making me feel so sad about it. And I was like, all right, grandma, I'm going to do it the right way. She's like, just do it the right way. Don't do it this way. So I was like, all right, grandma. But once again, we're faced with another obstacle of my freedom. And I was just like, mm-mm. So I had a little attitude about it. I'm sure I said some words and, she's like, you can just get the hell out of my house. And I looked at my dad, like, you just gonna let her? And she had threatened me before in little ways about leaving. And I was just like, I'm tired of this. So my dad's like, you heard what your mom said. I said, all right, cool. And I got my little bag together and I left and I never moved back. And Tariq, that's me and him were just friends at the time.
Mhm.
And I had just met him. He had just moved down here. And yeah, he came and got me. And that was it. That was it for that.
Speaking of Tariq, that's how I met you. I
hmm
worked at this awful call center job. Um, and Tariq was my training manager. And he helped me get the hookup because I needed a hair stylist, and he
Mm-hmm.
was just like, "Let me tell you." And then I was introduced to this queen, and
Mm-hmm.
like, but you were so much more than a hairstylist. I was just like, I just want to get in her chair so we could talk, because it was
Mm-hmm.
just fun. It was just fun
Yeah.
to connect with you. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of real people in my life that I felt like actually got me, and it was like, I don't know if this is just like a stylist thing or if she's just working her magic and she could just talk
Mm-hmm.
to anybody. But it's working for me. So if this is the therapy I'm going to take advantage. It's a little expensive, but
Yeah.
I can handle it.
Pricey therapy.
I was like, but I look
But
cute
you get
at
a two
the
for
end of
one.
it. I look cute at the end of it. I could do that. So
Yeah.
it was, I don't know, it was an instant bond. So I will
Yeah.
like, tell me more about that because I never got to know the beginning really and how that all started.
Mm.
And
Ah, girl. Oof. It's a lot. That's a lot. This is 14, 15 years of a relationship. So yeah, I met Tariq through a friend. He had just moved down here to Tampa, and I met him after a club. Actually, it was so crazy because that day I found out my little boyfriend. I had a little boyfriend. I had, well, I thought it was my boyfriend. He was cheating on me, and I was devastated, girl. I was like, oh, he cheated on me. My friends like, let's go out. And let's get our minds off of it. So I
Mhm.
was like, all right, fine. So after the club, she was like, let's go to see my friend. I was like, I don't want to meet nobody. I want to go home. She was like, nah, you need to come out because we're gonna go say hi. So I met Tariq, and I think he was with his cousin, his mother friend, and he was so friendly. I just couldn't stand him. I was just like, why are you smiling? I still
Right?
be looking at him like, why are you smiling so much? I was so not the girl I am today. First of all, I was very like,
So he's
I
always
didn't like to.
like that.
What, girl? He's
Like,
still like
I
this.
was just like, what is wrong with you?
I don't. I'm still trying to figure it out. I promise. I told you. I told him this yesterday. Like, why are you smiling? Like, why
I
are
was
you
just like,
so
what
happy?
drugs is this man on?
Like,
Like,
girl, and none. It's not crazy, but he it drove me crazy, and I was just like, you're really short. I just was like, you're so short. Mind you, my friend's tall, so I just assume, and everybody I've ever met through her are just like tall people. I just used it. I'm used to being like the shorter one. But
mhm.
I'm like, you're really short. And he was like, well, nice to meet you too. And I felt so bad. I was like, all right, this is not right. But I was bitter. I was bitter. I had my
You're
heart
like,
broken. I
man,
didn't
fuck
like
these
men.
guys.
Yeah, hold on, y'all. Like, I don't.
But
Why
I'm
are you
not
so
trying to be
happy?
nice to none of y'all.
None of y'all. So I actually wrote him probably like a couple weeks later on MySpace, back when MySpace was big. And I was like, I'm really sorry. Like I had come to my senses and realized I was kind of
MySpace.
rude.
Fun.
Right, MySpace. And I was like, I'm so sorry for saying that to you. Like that was really rude. You were just trying to be nice and I was just like a grouch. And he's like, it's okay, blah blah blah. Like, so we were friends. We were just friends after that. He had just gotten out of a divorce. And he moved down here to start over. So yeah, we were just friends, and
How old were you?
when 18, I was 18. Yeah, but I think he was like 24. And so we would just chit chat here and there. And then like he used to start flirting with me, and I was like, I'm not interested in you like that. Like he was not my type. I was so shallow too. I was like, I got
God.
my list of things, my requirements that I want in a man. But yeah, so we were just friends.
Funny. Isn't it
Hmm?
funny that the list that you came up with back then never matches the person that you're actually with? You're like,
No,
you ain't nothing that was on the list.
no, completely the opposite.
Like,
Minus the light eyes.
complete.
The light eyes was on the list. I wanted somebody with hazel eyes.
Solano too. Like you were supposed to have dreads.
Right.
Dreads were supposed to be like blue and
Right.
green. I don't
Yes. Yeah, yeah. You used to be a little hood. Like, I wanted a whole thug. Like, you need to have a gun on you at all times.
know. So it's talk dirty and sweet to me. Like,
Right. The balance of everything. But no. Yeah, I come
being
complete
raised in
opposite.
Florida fucks you up.
Girl, it do. And you know what? Them people ain't good for you. Like I look at my list now. I remember my list. I had a few lists, but I remember them. And I'm like, that type of person ain't gonna be no good for me. Like
Right?
I don't really want that. I don't really
Like,
need that. I don't
girl,
need that.
that person would have had you like in jail.
Yes, girl, in jail, covering up for him. No,
Right?
I'm good. No, especially the girl I was back then. I was a ride or die. You hear me? Like I'd have
Yes,
rolled and died for
I
him.
was. Like, yes, I'll take the charge. I love him.
Right? Mm-mm.
Oh
I'm
my
so glad he didn't ask me to do that. Oh gosh.
God.
But yeah. So when my mom kicked me out, I called him and I
Mhm.
was like, "Hey, no pressure, but I need somewhere to go for like, give me like a month or two because I was making money. Like I had a career. I was like, let me get my money up and I can get my own place. And he's like, no, you can come stay. You could be a roommate. And I was like, no, I don't be a roommate because you just got out of a divorce and I feel like you should be out there having your best life. And there's no woman that's going to be okay with me living with you. Like I remember the conversation. Like I had the whole thing in my head planned out. Like this ain't gonna work because of all these reasons, but I just need this amount of time, you know. And he was just like, whatever, fine, I'm gonna come get you. And he came and got me. Um, and yeah, like we grew on each other. Like Tariq is my person. Like relationship or not, and I can actually say that now after everything we've been through. Relationship or not, he is my person. I'm trying not to cry, but like he's been a father, a brother, a best friend, a husband,
I feel you.
everything. Like everything, and taught me things about myself that like I had no respect for myself. Like I didn't. There were so many ways I did not care about myself. Sorry, I did not plan on getting on here and crying, but it's crazy. Like
I'm
what people.
sorry. I have that
Ain't this
effect
shit?
on people.
Don't let them see me cry. I'm playing with you.
I probably should have
um,
warned you to have tissue nearby.
I probably it's okay. I just let them dry on my face. Oh my gosh! But no, for real. Like I was a lost person. Um, and I was wild. I was crazy. Ooh, I was. I mean, even in a relationship, I ain't gonna lie. Like I was off the chain, and he has sat me down many times and was like, "As a woman, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be, being around these type of people because this is the things that can happen. This look just situation. Right? He has sat me down and has been like the backbone
Mhm.
of my male structure in my life.
Yeah.
Outside of my father, I grew up with both parents in a home.
Mhm.
And me and my father's relationship did not really start till way later.
Mhm.
So during this space of life, I didn't have a male figure in my life. He was my male
That
figure.
final raising from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that, and that I
Yeah.
went through that transition with Lano too, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that feeds into part of why our relationship. Like I grew up with him, like
Mm-hmm.
we grew up together, and I mean we've been together since I was 16 and he was 18, but I became a woman with him, and there was so much.
Mm-hmm.
I lived such a sheltered life in that religious world where I didn't know shit. Like, and
Yeah.
when I came out and he plucked me out and he said, like, be you. Like, yes, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to be a bisexual girl. Like,
Mm-hmm.
be free and
Mm-hmm.
you and love on you and like
Mm-hmm.
it's okay, like breathe,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm.
just discovered a whole new like level of who
Yeah.
I was, and I didn't start living until
Mm-hmm.
then,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's when I started healing from all those traumas that I'd had in my childhood because it was so much abuse, so much neglect, so much ah
Mm-hmm.
stuff
Yeah.
with the parents,
Yeah.
and it's not just religion and all that. It's just a lot of ickiness,
Mm-hmm.
and he saved me in a lot of ways. And so
Yeah.
I feel that, and that's always going to be my person.
At that age, hey, I didn't think he was going to be my husband. Like I just thought like, okay, like he's cool. But yeah, like we wound up getting married. I was 20. I was 20. I had got kicked out the religion, so we'll go into that. It's called disfellowshipping. um,
Wow.
I had got disfellowshipped.
Very
I'm gonna
formal.
share. I'm gonna share what happened too, because I don't really tell people the story. And I know in the religion, a lot of people,
Not a lot of people know about the structures
no,
of Jehovah Witness.
mm-mm,
I don't, what is that?
yeah,
Jehovah Wisdom?
Jehovah.
Like,
Jehovah Witnesses. Jehovah Witnesses,
okay.
yeah.
Jehovah Wisdom. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like I don't know the, the technicalities and all that around it. So
Hmm.
if you can like enlighten us a little bit and
Okay.
tell us a little bit more about like what, because it sounds very structured and rigid
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
very formal, like a lot like Mormons are, where it's very formal and
Hmm.
documented and all
Hmm.
that, and you have to go through processes just to get out of it.
Hmm.
And I'm sure there's
Yeah.
other religions that are like that too, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's very much like that. You actually don't really fully understand the grasp of what you are getting into. And I will say I was born into it.
Born
So
into it.
I didn't have a choice. But which sucks. Like I feel like people should have a choice. Like
Yeah, there's
imagine like
way to
I
show.
can't imagine raising my kids into like, oh, this is who you are now. And if you don't agree with it, I want nothing to do with you. That's
Yeah.
like me choosing their career. That's what I've always like told my parents. Like that's like saying I need to be an electrician and love it. I don't have no love for electricity. Like I'm not gonna sit here and that's not my thing. You can't choose people's paths. But anyway, yeah. So I was born into it, and the structure of the religion basically is you most kids that are in the religion, they usually get baptized by like 12. And now here the difference between the baptism of Jehovah Witnesses and let's say a regular Christian church is, some people baptize their babies and like I've dedicated my child to God, that's their thing. We were told like you cannot do that first things first. You don't get baptized as a baby. You get baptized when you understand your dedication to Jehovah, to God. But the dedication, in my personal opinion, is not to God, it is to the religion.
Mm,
And so therefore you must abide by what the religion requires,
mm,
which is obviously no holidays, no smoking, no sex before marriage, like everything that's basically in the Bible.
mm.
um, you cannot do
Not
any of
even
these
your own
things.
birthday, right?
No, you cannot. But down to the sexual intimacy you have with your partner, there are rules. No anal sex, no oral sex, no sex on your
Oh,
period. And if you do, you have to go confess that. And you can get kicked out the religion for having sex with your partner. Like, hey, I gave my husband head last night. So, like, you can't,
the fuck?
yeah. So, I mean, there's levels. So, when I, so when you get, once you get baptized, you get privileges, whether you're, participating in the weekly meetings. So you get to go up on stage. Women cannot be preachers. We'll just call it a preacher. You cannot go on stage and give sermons. That is off the table, but you can go and give a demonstration of how to preach in service. When you go knock on people's doors, you can give a demonstration to the audience on how to do that. So it was like we had as women, we had very minor things that we can do. We did a lot of the cleaning in the Kingdom Hall, like the stereotypical women things. So that was that. But anyways, once you get baptized, if you sin, you have to go confess it to the elders of the congregation. And there has to be 3 men in the room with you. You go and you sit down and you confess it. They say a prayer to God to see if you're really sorry or not. Because your sorry determines whether you're disfellowshipped, which means kicked out, ostracized from, like you cannot talk to anyone, not even your own family members. Or you get reproved, which is you get your privileges taken away. You can't participate in the meetings. You can't go in service. Like you can't knock on people's doors. And you cannot, hang out at certain events. You just got to kind of be a little distant, but not like fully distant. It's kind of, so anyways, the first time I had to sit down with the elders, it was by my choice, because I had gotten baptized, but I was not living my life according to the rules. And I was knocking on people's doors and I felt like a hypocrite. I felt bad because I was like, I'm preaching to these people to live this lifestyle and I'm over here hooking up with my boyfriend. Like, I feel horrible.
Yeah.
And I told mom, like, Mom, I don't think I should be doing this. And she's like, why not? And I was like, I just feel like there's some things I need to work through. I didn't want to tell her. I was like, there's some things I need to work through. I was in the full time, so it's called being a regular pioneer. I was in the full time work with her, and I was like, I can't do this. And she would not let me get off that list because that's also his image. It's like, oh, her daughter is no longer doing this, like
Mm,
gossip, and she didn't want that. So I was like, all right, well, I'm about to sabotage myself. I'm throwing myself under the bus. So I went and talked to them on my own. She didn't even know. She was pissed. But I confessed my sins and they reproved me, which means I just had limited whatever association with everyone, but I could still talk to people. Um, Fast forward, when I ended up living up with my then friend at the time. My mom followed me and found out where I lived. And she called the elders in the congregation. And they came and they saw my car there at night at Tariq's house. And then the next morning they came back and saw my car. It was almost like a stakeout. They saw my car there and they called me and they were like, hey, we need to speak with you. And I'm like, for what? I'm like, oh, we just wanted to encourage you. You know, we haven't seen you at the Kingdom Hall in a while. We want to, to have a little chit chat. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I'll come.
That's a lot.
Nah, it was an ambush.
Yeah.
Girl, it was an ambush. And like, I will say this, still at 18, I was heavily depressed. I was going through trauma, leaving my parents' home very drastically. I cried every night. I was going through it. Like I've never grieved. That was my first time grieving. And I grieved the loss of my family, like because they would not talk to me. I wasn't kicked out at the time, but they cut me off and I couldn't see my little sisters. Like I was messed up. Okay. And they called me and my dad called me ahead of time and gave me like a little heads up, like, hey, you need to say you're sorry. Whatever they got on you, you need to apologize. And I was like, I was not saying sorry for them. I didn't do nothing. Like, so anyways, they sent me in a room and they were like, yeah, so we know that you're living with a man who's not a Jehovah's Witness and he's your boyfriend. And are you having sex with him? And I was like, no, because we weren't. Like the day they went, we ain't had no sex. Like April 1, we ain't have sex that day. But I wasn't having sex with him. We was friends. Like, if you want to get technical. But I was like, no, I'm not, I'm not having sex. And it was like, okay, well, we know that you're living, with him. And I was like, yeah, I'm staying with him because I don't have anywhere else to stay. And like, well, why don't you stay at your home? I was like, my mom kicked me out. They were like, she said that wasn't true. I was like, well, that's understandable. Of course, she's not going to, tell us whatever. And mind you, they know about my depression and all that. Because when I came to them, I told them about all the details. That they know my relationship with my mother, which I haven't talked about in here, but they know how bad it was. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you guys know all of these things. You guys are not giving me any resources. I'm pushed again. Like I'm in between a rock and a hard place, and I needed to get out because this is my sanity, like we're talking about. So they was like, so they're still going on and on about the fact that I'm living with this man, and like, are you going to move back home? And I was like, no, I'm not going to move back home. They're like, we also heard you talking to your brother. My brother was also kicked out the religion. I'm not supposed to be communicating with him, and I was. And I told them, I was like, yeah, I'm speaking with him, and I'm not going to stop.
If you're both. Oh my God.
Yeah. And they were just like, well, this is a lot of things, and they were like, how do we know that you're not having sex with him? I'm telling you, I literally came here and confessed my sins like a couple months ago. So I'm being honest with you guys. So for you guys to judge me and call me a liar now is crazy, so they were like, all right, well, we need you to step out. We're going to prayerfully consider this and then you can come back in the room. So they prayerfully considered it. And I came back in and they told me, we're going to have to disfellowship you because we're not stupid. Basically, like we're not stupid. We know we came to your house. Then they dropped all the evidence of my stakeout. We came to where you were at. You were parked here. You were here. We came back at 7 a.m. in the morning. Your car was in the same parking spot.
Yeah, usually when people sleep and live somewhere. That's what happens.
So that leads us to believe that you're having relations with this man. And I was like, at that point, I was irritated. I was like, all right. Like, I don't have anything else to say. That's fine. If you want to stamp me with that, that's cool. What now? Like, oh, we're going to disfellowship you. I was like, all right, that's cool. They're like, you need anything else? No, I'm leaving. Okay, goodbye. And that was it. And that was the beginning of, I lost everybody. Like, so not only did I lose my family, I couldn't speak to them. The only friends I had because I wasn't allowed to have friends outside of the Kingdom Hall, they all cut me off. My best of friends. And I was just like, dang, I know y'all are sinning. Like, y'all be in the clubs with me. Y'all out here smoking. At the time, I wasn't even smoking. Y'all out here smoking weed. Y'all are doing together. You're sleeping with a married man. Like, what the hell? And I'm not even doing nothing. I'm minding my business, And they we're so sorry, but we can't hang out with you anymore. I lost clients because I was doing hair. All of my clients were Jehovah's Witnesses because once again, I started doing hair. They wanted support, of course. And then when they found out that I'm no longer a Jehovah's Witness, unfortunately, we can't do business with you. Okay. So that was, a starting point, a start over point for me. I had to start over from nothing, so that was a lot right there. But yeah, it was.
How has that been over time? Because I'm assuming you never returned.
I returned once.
Okay.
So I ended up getting married to get my family back. That was honestly the main thing. So if I got married to Tariq, I'm no longer living in sin. I have the chance to come back into the Kingdom Hall, and try it as an adult. I was like, this happened when I was a kid. This happened in my parents' home. Maybe there was a disconnect because I didn't like their rules. And other people had told me, there was a couple people that did still contact me, even though they weren't supposed to. And I'm very grateful because they kind of gave me the push to try it again at the time. So yeah, me and Tariq got married. I told him, I was like, you love me, I love you. I miss my family. He was in the military, like, you're about to deploy. Why not? Let's just get married. And he was like, okay, let's do this. So got married, went back to the Kingdom Hall. That was very hard because as you go, you're not allowed to speak to anyone. So people like treat you like you have the plague. They don't want to sit next to you. They don't want to open a door for you. It was very, very hard. But I got back in. Oh, when I first tried to get back in, they told me they didn't feel like I was sorry enough. I had to write a letter to get back in. And I wrote this heartfelt letter. And mind you, it was from my heart. Like, I really felt it. Like, I was like, I really poured my heart out. And they was like, no, you're not, we don't really feel like you're really there. So like 6 more months. And I'm like, 6 more months? Like, this is crazy. So I did it. I did it another 6 months. I got in. And I almost feel like it was worse than the first time because I feel like y'all don't even like me. Y'all don't really love me.
Yeah, I
This is conditional.
like this
Like,
is supposed to be where people find comfort in, like,
yeah.
what is the purpose of this?
Yeah, it did nothing. Like, it did nothing for me. I was like, this is really bad. And, I had to study. And then they were telling me, oh, well, I had piercings. I had like a couple of my ear, nothing crazy. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, piercings. Like, I had piercings and stuff like that. So they were like, oh, well, you really should take those out. And, we suggest, and like all these things. And I'm like, I don't want to change everything about myself. I already have to cover up my tattoos every time I come in here. Like, and I did it out of respect because people will stare at you the whole time and it's uncomfortable. So I would cover myself up and try to be this person. And people just kept wanting to talk about my past. How bad was it out there? I'm like, it wasn't bad at all. Like, because they don't leave the confines of the safety of the Kingdom Hall. So living in the world is scary to them. And they think, oh yeah, they expect me to say, oh yeah, I was strung out on drugs. Oh yeah, I was in a whorehouse. I prostituted. I got pregnant. None of that stuff happened to me.
Now
They expected the worst.
you're just sitting around with a needle in your arm.
Exactly. I was like, no, none of that happened. So yeah, it was crazy. So anyways, fast forward, I stopped going. Tariq had started studying and everything because he's going to support anything I do. Like, he's like, all right, well, I'll do it with you. And he was great at it, because he didn't have any emotion.
What were you converting to today?
Right? He don't care. He's like, let's do it. So, but I was like, oh, I really don't, this is rubbing me wrong. And so long story short, we stopped going. Then I got pregnant with Ava. And that's when I went back for a little while because I was like, okay, this isn't just about me. And this is about my daughter.
Your children, yeah.
Yeah, my child. I want her to, and I was living in fear of what I was taught too. Like, if I don't, do this for her, we're going to be destroyed in Armageddon. Like, they believe that the world is going to have an Armageddon and that anyone who is not a Jehovah's Witness will be destroyed. Point blank, don't matter how great you love God. And that was one of the things that I couldn't sit with. I was like, ain't no way. Because I've met so many people that love God down. When I say, like, they are dedicated and they give, and you telling me these people are about to be destroyed because they're not a Jehovah's Witness. I don't believe that. Like, I couldn't find that in my spirit to like sit with, but it was ingrained in my brain. So I thought, let me try and do this because this little girl, she's a little baby. She doesn't know. Yeah, I'm like, I'll do anything for her. I'll go and sit in the meetings, even though I don't understand it really. Like, I'll do it for her. And then it was still when I tell you something, my brain and my intuition will not allow me to do things I'm not supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. It will torture me. I will have dreams about it. Mm-hmm. I will days off in the middle of the day and just be gone thinking about, like, this isn't right. This isn't right. The alarms go off in my body and I can't ignore them as much as I've tried. I cannot ignore them. So I had to go. And that was the last time I went. That was it. I was like, I'm taking my chance on God, not this structure. I'm taking my chance on God because I've prayed to him so many times and he has never said go this way
Yeah.
for me. So I was like, no, this ain't right for me. No. So
All right, y'all. This was such an incredible conversation with Krystina Nina. I want you to stay tuned for part two. It will be a lot more involved, a lot deeper. There's so much more to come. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in part two. Bye.